Hi guys, before we start today's lesson, let's review what we have learned so far. So we have learned variables and their types, modifiers. We also learned how to create project and how to create a class, the naming, and also the package creation. Then we learn about the operator and their types, and we started with the if else, loop and conditions. Now today's lessons we will learn more about other loops. Let's start. So what is actually loop? It's one way to call it as iterative loops. So a loop enables you to execute a statement or block of statements repeatedly. So we have for loop, while loop, do while loop. So let's see how while loop actually works. So when you declare as a while loop, you need to create as a while, then put the boolean conditions, then there will be a parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis you need to say the statements. We'll see one example to understand clearly how this loop actually works, and we will also go through with the how to make a breakpoint and how to run the program line by line as a debug mode, so you can actually understand that how loops works. Here is an example. So this is a while loop. Inside this main function we have created one variable which is called count. It's an integer variable, and then we initialize it as a value 1. Then you need to put the condition of the loop. The condition here is while count is less than equals to 3, then you need to print system out println count. So this is the execute statement. So this will print the count value as long as this count value is less than or equals to 3. Then this is the update variable. You put a increment here as a count. Then when this condition is false, it will exit the while loop, and lastly it will print this one. This is like just say that loop is finished. Final count value is the final last value. So let's see if I run this program how this look like. This is the program that we see in the example. So how to create a breakpoint? You need to make a breakpoint so that the program you are running, you can actually run it as debug mode. Debug mode is also used for any kind of error. If you have in your program, you can debug it line by line and you can find out where the error is. So you need to double click here. You can see that there is a small circle here. That's the breakpoint. So let's go to the debug mode. This is this debug. So if I click here, it will show you that do you want to actually go to the debug perspective. So in the debug perspective, you can see it properly. So you need to switch in here. Now you can see if I run it as a debug mode, the count is 1, which we already put. So you need to press F6. Then it will go to the print line and it will print count is the value of count 1. Then it will go to the next line, and if you again press F6, it will increment the value of count as 2. Now count is 2, which is still less than 3. That means the condition is true. Then it will print again the count value. And each time if you press F6, then it will actually go through with the loop. Then when the loop will finish, then it will print this last line. So now again I will press the F6 and it again value increased. Then it prints. Then the count is now 4. This is the condition which is now false. So now it will print the final value, which is the 4. Then the loop finished. This is how actually the while loop works. Let's go through the other loops. We now know how to run a program in a debug mode and how to make a breakpoint and how the loop actually works. Now this is the do while loop. So we see the while loop and this is the do while loop. So what is the difference? This is an exit control loop. The key difference is that the body of the loop is always execute at least once before the condition is checked. So do, you can understand, do means do this, then there's this statement, and then this the condition. So before this condition is checked, this will execute this statement. And the writing format is do parenthesis then statement, and after closing the parenthesis there will be while with the condition. Let's see an example. This is the do while loop example. In here you can see that we initialize a variable x and give a value 5. Then this is the do statement. In a do we say that print value of x and then a plus sign and x. So this is always whenever you print something, then in the quotation you need to put the string value what you want to show, then there should be a plus sign which is not the operator in here. In this case plus sign before the variable. Now here is the increment value x plus plus. That means x value will be increased by 1. Then this means /n the next line. And what is the condition? Here we put the condition while x is less than 10. That means this loop will go through. It will always print x value and increment the x value until this x is less than 10. So we can still see this example and see if I run this how this is look like. So first just copy this one. We are not going to write any new program here. I will just paste it in here. And now I need to put a breaking point. And then you need to run this program. So let's run and in a debug mode. I need to save this one. So let's see. So we started value with 5, then it go through the x increment. X value now is 6, then 7, then 8, then lastly this is printing the 9. So the condition is it will print from 5 to 9 because x is less than 10. That means 9 is less than 10. When it will increment one value and it becomes 10, then this condition is false. Then it will exit this while loop. So this is how the do while loop actually works. So it will at least print this while the condition is true. That means in do this one is always it will execute this statement. So now let's go another loop, for loop. Mostly for loop is very popular and it's used most of the time. And the for loop condition is for, then you need a first bracket, then you say the initialization, then the condition, and then the iteration. So what does this mean? The initialization is it initialize is usually an assignment statement. For example, integer I equals to 1. We actually saw this variable declaration in the do while loop, which is this way, but you can put this initialization inside the for loop. So this is the loop control variable which act as the counter that controls the loop. Now the condition, here the condition is a Boolean expression that determines whether or not the loop will repeat. So if you put another condition which will not repeat the loop, then the loop will only execute one time, then it will exit the for loop. But normally when we actually say it's a loop, that means we put some conditions so that this for loop and this statement is going to be repeated. The iteration here means the expression defines the amount by which the loop control variable will change each time the loop is repeated. That means it will iterate, then the initialization also change and the condition will check. In this way for loop execute, and in the parenthesis you need to put the statement sequence. Let's see the example. So this is an example of a for loop. Inside the main function you put for integer I equals to 1, I is less than equals to 5, then I plus plus. So how this loop will work? It will print number I. When you first initialize I equals to 1, it will print 1. Then it will increment the value of I. That means now the value of I will become 2. Then it will check the condition. Condition 2 is less than or equals to 5. Then this is true. Then it will print this. Again it will print I, the number 2. It will print I value until this condition is true. That means when the I value is 5, it will still print 5. Then when the I value becomes 6, this condition is false. That means it will not print any further. I will not run this, and the easy way to understand all these loops is better to write this program by yourself and run it and see that how these loops actually works and how this iteration and increment and condition, everything works out step by step. This is very important to actually understand the looping condition and the increment value. Otherwise it will be actually difficult, because we use for loop so many times in our program logic. Just not only for loop, there is very important thing to understand that with the for loop you can also use if else. So inside the for loop you can also use if or even multiple for loops. That means it's not only one for loop, there could be multiple for loop, or there could be for loop inside there could be if condition. The next thing is collection based for loop. So for the collection based for loop, it actually used in a, suppose the list, array list or mapping things, but right now you don't need to understand how the list actually works. So you just need to remember that there is another kind of for loop which is called collection based for loop. We will actually discuss this list on a later lessons, but not today. So for example, in here you can see the names dot add. So we actually add in a list Tom, Mary and Peter, 3 names. And Tom, Mary, Peter, this is 3 names. That means if I want to access this specific names one by one, then I need to repeat this. So for this we use collection based for loop, and the system to write for this collection based for loop is for first bracket string the variable name. You need to give a variable name as a name, as a string based variable name, then colon, then the names. The names is this one, the variable, list variable. So after that, if you actually print this string variable, then it will print this Tom, Mary and Peter. So this is how this collection based loop actually works. Now we will learn switch statement. So we know that we have if else, we have for loop. So sometimes you can actually use switch statement, and this switch statement in Java's multi-way branch statement. Each value must be correctly defined. General form of a switch, actually how you declare switch, you need to put switch, then first bracket expression, in the parenthesis you say case constant 1, then the statement sequence, then the break point, then case constant 2, statement sequence, again break. So this way you can actually go on. It depends on how many case constant you have. Then the last, you have a default condition. Default is when none of the case constant is true, then this is the default last, and you say default statement sequence, then the parenthesis closed. So this switch, it is used to take the place of long if else chains and make them more readable. So in case you have a very long list of if else conditions, then you can actually replace that if else with this switch. Switch statement evaluates an expression and executes a block of code matching one of the specified cases. So this particular case, if it actually matches this case, then it will break and it will execute and exit from the switch. But if it's not matching from the first constant, then it will check the second constant. If it matches with the second constant, then it will execute this second one, otherwise again it will check. So whichever case constant it match, it will do the statement sequence of that constant, otherwise it will go last default and it will execute the default. There are 3 critical components in the switch. One is case. What is case? This is the value that is evaluated for equivalence with the argument to the switch statement. Even if you don't understand a long introduction of the switch, you just need to remember how the switch you write, the structure of the switch. When you will see an example, you will understand that how the switch case works, and that's important. Basically, no one can actually remember word by word the definition of anything. It is very difficult to remember the definition, but you need to understand how things works. Now there is another one, the default. So default is, this is the optional point. So if catch all expression, should none of the case statements evaluate is true, this, then it will go to default, as I said. Lastly, the third is the break. So what breaks actually do? This is an abrupt completion of the case statement. That means if this one, case constant 2, is true, then it will go this statement sequence. After it will go through the break. That means it will halt, abrupt. This is required to prevent the undesired evaluation of further case statement. So let's see one example. This is a switch example. So for example, I want to see the third day. So we have 7 days in a week, and you can actually represent this 7 day as a switch. But if you change here integer day, here is 3, that means third case will be executed. You can actually change this value, whatever value you choose. For example, if I choose 4, then the fourth case will be executed and it will print the fourth. Let's see line by line. So we have a string variable day name. Then the switch statement to check the day. In switch, you need to put first bracket, then I put the day. Day is the day, this variable. Now case number 1. Then you put a semicolon. And the string variable is day name. So we say day name equals Monday. So here important thing is, whenever this is a string of letter, that means Monday is a name of the day. So you need to put this as a string variable, day name. This is a number, so we say it's the integer variable. But this is a name, a string. So it is a string variable. Then we put a break. Then again we say the case 2, day name is Tuesday, then break. This way you can actually put all the day name like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so on, and then there is a default which is invalid day. So now if we run this program, it will actually print the day is the third case. Third case is this one. So the day is the Wednesday. In any case, if you change this value in here, whatever value you put, it will execute that particular case. There is two special case. So let's special situation. One is the break to exit a loop, which I explained, but there is the more explanation for the break. So it is possible to force an immediate exit from a loop by using the break statement. For example, in here we have this for loop, but we also have a if condition. As I said, inside a for loop you can also put if condition. But then we say break. That means it will terminate loop and then I equals in I multiplication of I. So when i's value multiply is greater than or equals to 100, so terminate the loop. So let's actually go through this one. So what will happen if we run this program? So we go to debug mode, then we debug it, press F6. So I is 0 right now, then it terminates. So it here you can see that the number is 100, I is 0 and it prints 0. Now I is 1, increment 1, then it prints 1, then now I increments again, now I is 2, then what will happen? It prints 2, three, so when it will be like i's value is 10, 10 into 10 is 100. So the loop will complete. Then it will break. This is how this actually works. So whenever the loop here this condition is true, then terminate this loop. So it will not increment any further because we put a break condition in here. So this condition is true, that means it will terminate the loop. This is actually how the break works. Now there's another special situation when we actually put continue. So what is continue? The continue statement is used to skip the remaining steps in the current iteration and start with the next loop iteration. As it says, this is the skip the rest of the loop and start with the next loop iteration. The continue statement can also make the control of the program shift to the step value, if any, of a named loop. So you can also put a named loop and say that continue from that named loop. Here is the example. In this for loop, we have a for loop and we have a condition I is less than equals to 10. Then there is the increment value. If I mod 2 equals to 0, there is the condition. So skip the rest of the loop body for even numbers. Here this condition, actually what it will do, whenever I is value incrementing and it becomes 2, that means this condition is true. So it will not print the i's value as a even number. So it will not print 2. So the continue means it will go increment the i's value, then again it will check the condition, then this other condition, if condition, is false because now i's value is 3, then it will print this odd number. So this program actually do, it only prints odd number because of this condition, if condition. So it will skip all the even number like 2, 4, 6, these even numbers, it will skip. So I will not run this one, but the very important thing, as I said, you need to practice. So you need to run all the programs, example programs, and see that how this actually works and try to understand what does continue do or break point, how this break point or continue works, and the loop, and every condition that you put or increment, how this loop actually loop through this and increment the value. This is important to understand properly. Now the basic logic. So if you have trouble to actually memorize that all the loops, here is the diagram. This is a numerical for loop. So in here execute initialization expression, then loop condition. If it's true, then execute loop body, then execute increment expression, then it will go through again the for loop. But if the condition is false, then it will exit from the loop, then next statement will be printed. Same as the collection based loop, the create loop identifier, then all items in collection processed. If it's true, then the next statement. If it's not processed, then self identifier next item, execute loop body statement, then again it will go through the all item process. And for the while loop, this is the test condition. If it's true, execute loop statement, then again test the condition. If it's not true, it's false, then again go to the next statement. Do while loop, execute loop statement, the condition expression is true, then go execute loop statement again. If it's not true, false, then the next statement. So this is the diagram to simply understand how all this loop logic actually happen. So now let's the last part, This is the exercise. So there are 5 tasks here, and everybody should try to solve these 5 tasks. This is also because you need to practice, so you will not remember or all the codes, because like there is nothing about uh, actually memorizing all the codes here, because the code always change. So programming code, you need to practice. You need to remember how the structure of the loop, or how to declare a function, how to write a class, the structure, the name of the class, how it will be a capital letter or a smaller letter. So the main point is here for the task that you need to practice, so you can actually remember the structure of the writing program. And based on what you are actually trying to do, for example here in task, write a program that calculates and prints the sum of all natural numbers from 1 to 5. So based on your task, the condition of the program always change. So one program you can write in different ways. For example, you can use if else condition, or maybe someone is using switch condition instead of if else. Someone can use for loop instead of do while loop. So in so many ways you can actually write a program. But if you have a clear picture how to write the program, then it will be easy. And if you practice, then you can memorize the structure of the program. This is why the tasks are important. And I will in the next lesson I will give the solution of this 5 tasks. But I prefer that you try to actually do it by yourself. So that's all for today. We'll see in the next session some more, not the loop. We'll learn new things in the next lesson.